Hello, my name is Johnny, and this is my story. I was not raised in a Christian home. Matter of fact, I was 13 years old before we ever started going to church. My grandmother was a Pentecostal holiness preacher, but my dad never got saved, and my mother was not a Christian. When I was 13, she prayed to receive Christ and got saved, and we started going to church. Just a few weeks later, we were in church one night, and I was sitting on the back row, carving my initials into the bench, and they had the altar call. And I had no idea what the preacher had preached. I wasn't listening at all, but at that point in time, I knew that I was a sinner. I knew that I was going to go to hell if I didn't repent. And we were all standing, and I remember I had a hold of the pew so tightly that my knuckles had turned white, and I just wasn't going to go forward. And one of the deacons in the church walked by and stepped up beside me and said, "Son, are you wanting to go forward?" And I said, "Yes." Now, I was not in a Baptist church. I was in a Pentecostal holiness church, and when you go forward in a Pentecostal holiness church, you don't shake the preacher's hand and say a little prayer. You get down on your knees, and we were up there for about an hour praying and asking forgiveness and repenting of sins and thinking of every sin that I could to ask forgiveness. And when I stood up, I knew that I was saved, that Jesus had forgiven me of my sins. And for the next 5 or 6 years, I lived a pretty good Christian life. Was still in high school and went to church every Sunday, went on Wednesdays and attended Sunday school, did all of that, and learned a lot about the Lord until I went into the Army. And then when I went into the Army, for a few months I continued to try to attend chapel, and then finally quit going. And then for about 15 years, I quit going to church. I quit following the Lord. Now, there was never a time that I doubted my salvation. I knew that I was saved, but I was like the prodigal son. I walked away from my father, and I did whatever I wanted to, the way I thought I should, when I should. And if you had known me back then, you would have sworn that I was not a Christian and that I was going to go to hell when I died. But I knew I was. And then one day, my best friend, oldest friend, we've been friends since 3rd grade, came up to me and he said, "You know, Johnny, I'm getting ready to build a house. Would you help me do that?" And at that time, I was working afternoons and evenings, so I had my days free. And I said, "Sure, I'd love to." So went over, and he and I built this house from the ground up. And every day, he would ask me, "Why don't you go to church with me?" And every day I said, "No." And he did this over and over and over, like I said, for a year. And finally one day I said, "Okay, I'll tell you what, if you'll shut up and leave me alone, I'll go to church with you." And that Sunday, I went to church. And my life changed. I became a server in the church. I became a deacon in the church. I surrendered to the ministry. I went to seminary. I mean, my life totally changed when I came back. But I'm a perfect example of a Christian that didn't walk with the Lord, didn't do what the Lord wanted him to do. And I'm so sorry for those days. And as I think back, my greatest regret is how many people died and went to hell because of those years that I wasn't walking with the Lord, that I wasn't the person that I should be. God bless you today. I am saved and I am walking with Jesus every day. Thank you.